Stiffing that up, bullet pop, little lady. I told you, daddy said.
Opa, why did you do this? A little girl was crying, holding her knee. Her big brother stopped laughing and sat on his knees in front of her. They were playing when Jimin pushed her slightly and she fell on her knees. She sat there and started crying. Jiggy and Jimin were looking at her. They thought she was doing a prank. Jungkook was just looking at her, how her face got red due to crying a lot. Jimin tried to hold her, but she was kept pushing him away. Jimin, oh my baby, sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. But she wasn't listening to him. She kept pushing him. Jiggy came forward and held her hand that she kept on her face. He saw her red nose because of crying continuously. She clenched her nose and bowed at him. Her eyes were watery. He picked her up in his arms. She didn't push him away. Stop crying, Bella. We'll eat ice cream without him, he said in her ear softly. Yeah, are you my friend or her? Jimin blabbered softly and went behind them. They both were 10 years old and Wine is 5 years old. Jungkook is Jimin's best friend. They live in neighbors. Their fathers are friends. Jungkook is quite boy. He only likes to play with Jimin. Wine Bob. She was in the ninth grade. While leaving the classroom, some boys bullied Wine. Boy 1, hey you little girl, you got a nice body. They were coming closer to her with creepy eyes. She was taking her steps back. Hey, don't come close to me. She was moving back while shivering. Their gaze were terrifying her. One of them grabs her wrist. She tried to take her wrist out of his hand. Other one started to come near her. Ryan's another hand were moving inside her pocket, and in the blink of eye, she spread pepper in their eyes. Their eyes started stinging with pain. They leave her hand and start rubbing their eyes. Wine took a chance, a run from there. She didn't look back and run. While running back home, she collided with someone. She stumbled. Her face was full of mixed emotions. She didn't know what she should feel now. Worry, fearful, strong, or weak. Her breath was abnormal. All she wanted is to reach home. A hand comes to her cheeks. Her face was full of tears. She jerked the hand and started to run again to go home. He grabbed her wrist again. Her breath hitched again. She stumbled in his hand. Breathe, Yuan. Look at me, he said calmly, holding her face her again, turning her head up again. She recognized his voice, and her breath started to become normal. She softened in his hand. Jungkook, she said softly while crying and hugged him tightly. He cares her hairs softly. After a while, when she calmed down, what happened? Why are you terrified, Bella? He always called her Bella when she's with him. She doesn't know what is the meaning of Bella. Jungkook, they will come to me again. They were a bad guy, she said while crying. He stilled. His hand stopped. His one hand turned into a fist. Cook, take me away from here, please, she said softly, hugging him. Who were they? He got angry. He felt like someone tried to touch his heart. His veins were started to appear. She didn't see him in this way. Her head was attached to his chest. He calmed down in front of her. He started patting her hair. Look at me, he said in low voice. But she didn't look at him, still hugging him tightly. He holds her face and turned upward towards him. They both looked into each other's eyes. He examined her. If she's hurt somewhere, he took her home and asked her not to tell this to anyone. The very next day, Jungkook beat out of those boys. Why didn't tell him yesterday on the way back home? She also told him about pepper spray. He was happy that she showed bravery in that situation. He got into fight with them. He beat them mercilessly. His face was showing anger. He wanted to tell them what happened to those who touched his belongings. He got injured too, but he didn't pay attention to that. His parents scolded him for beating them, but he didn't listen to them. At that time, Wine was standing beside her parents, trying to hide herself behind them. She saw them scolding him, but he didn't say a word to them. He was just listening to them. At that night, he was in the room playing video game aggressively with his friends. He wasn't bothered of his parents scolding. All he cared about wine. He came out of his thought when his window knocked. He put his speaker aside and sided his curtains. He saw her there. She was standing there with a box in her hands, probably a first aid box. He opened his window. "What are you doing here, Bella?" Ryan didn't say anything. She hold his hand and take him to the bed. She opened the box and started reading the wound on his hands. "Ryan, why did you beat them?" "JK, you know why," he said, looking into her eyes. "Ryan, why you didn't tell that to your parents? You got scolded because of me," she said softly. "JK, nothing happened because of you. Don't stress your little brain, kiddo." "Why?" "I'm not a kid," she mumbles. JK smiled at her. They both were looking into each other's eyes. She was at 15 at that time, and he was 20. There was something between them, but they didn't know. In fact, nobody knew anything at that time. Wine stand up and stressed to leave from there. Their both houses were side by side. Our balcony connects with him. They can go to each other's rooms whenever they want. It was her first time when she came here. "JK, won't you give anything in return?" he asked her. "Wine, huh? What do you want?" she said, fidgeting her fingers softly. "JK, what do you have to give me?" He was making her confused. Wine think for a bit. She walked towards him and tiptoed, looking into his eyes. She kissed on his cheeks. He stilled. He silenced, looking at her actions. "Wine, mommy always kiss me when I do something good." Jacob off. First time. It was his first time. He knew she's young, very young. She's so little and soft like a cotton ball. Present. "You have to whine," Jimin was saying to Yuan. "Whine, why are you acting like a child? He's young, rich, and handsome. What do you want else? You're going to marry him," Jimin said to her. "He isn't what I want. I want Mary." "Jungkook, do whatever you want to do," Wine fired back. "I'm asking you for a fake marriage, not a real one, Wine." "Even that's fake. I won't marry him. Just know that I want." "Why can't you do what I say to you? It is good for you," Jimin said calmly while gritting his teeth. Wine went angrily from there. She closed her door very hard. "I don't know why he's doing with me. I don't want to marry him. I don't like him. He's the worst person I've ever seen." Wine was murmuring in her mind, remembering Jungkook. Jungkook bobbed. Jimin, she denied. Jungkook, I don't know what happened to her. She's not even listening to me. Whenever I take name of marriage in front of her, she blasts on me like a bomb. Jungkook was just listening to him. After a while of silence, he replied, Jungkook, I told you she wouldn't agree. Jimin, but there is no option left, Jungkook. We have to fake her marriage, and I don't trust anyone except you. Jungkook, is there no way else? Jimin, you know, Jungkook, I can't leave her alone after mom and dad's death. They are behind her. I don't think there's no other better option, Jungkook. But you can force her. She's not a child now. Jimin, I know I'm also dragging you in this matter. Thank you for agreeing with me. I'll talk to her one more time. He sighed and went away from there.
Don't you cry, everything's gonna be alright. Stiffen that up a lip up, little